Requesting connection. Established. Encrypted. We're live. The show you've been asking for. Advice, technology, and community. Linux first, all others second. This is Ask Noah.
Live from Woodbury, Minnesota in the Tamarack Tap Room, the Ask Noah Show starts right now. This is the show where we came to do all the things on Linux they said couldn't be done and take your questions on how to do the same. The phone lines are open this hour to be a part of the program. It's a free call, 1-855-450-NOAH. It's 1-855-450-6624 or send an email to live@asknoahshow.com. My name is Noah Chalai. I am your host. Delighted to be here with you this hour as another episode of the Ask Noah Show kicks off. A full house. We filled up the table. Thank you so much to those of you that came out to see us at the Tamarack Tap Room in Woodbury, Minnesota. If you haven't, there's still time because the show is just getting started. And then right after that, following that, we're going to have some food and some Linux discussions. I noticed that in true Ask Noah spirit, everybody here has brought their laptop, and that's good. Now, we all run in Linux? Yep. Okay, that's good. They all say yes. So we have our commemorative 100 episode poster, which... And this is what happens. See, there's two ways to get something done right. Tell your kids not to do it or do it yourself. But see, when you pay somebody else to do it, they printed my poster, and they did a fantastic job printing my poster, except they shifted the entire poster like 8 inches to the right, and I'm not sure what that's about. So we're going to have a lopsided poster. That's what we're going to have. But that's the kind of stuff that we roll with here. Now, I have to warn you, the listening audience, that tonight has been... It's a dangerous night, is what I'm trying to say, because Brandon Johnson is here, formerly of Red Hat, and the Ubuntu guys are here, Ubi Ports and Simon Quigley, and already, just 5 minutes into the show, blood has been shed, and they're at each other's throats the entire time, and have been fighting over airtime, throwing glasses of beer and food at each other. It's been absolutely horrendous. So, more of that as the night goes on. We'll try to rein them in and try to get them both on and see if they can settle their differences. No. So you can hear the battle raging on as I, as a true professional, overcome and continue on. So what I wanted to talk about tonight, and what I want to have a discussion, and of course you too can join the discussion at 855-450-6624, or you can join us in our interactive mumble room, mumble.jupiterbroadcasting.org. And let's see here. There's a couple people in there, so we'll go ahead and let's turn those guys on. Hey guys, welcome to the Ask Noah Show.
Hey Noah.
Hey, thanks for being here. We appreciate it. I'm not going to bother, doing the chat room. Just pipe up. You got something to say? Just jump in there. So here is where I'm at. Where I'm at is we are in the month of November, and if you guys aren't aware, November is Podcaster Month. And so what I've been thinking about as we have gone through some transitions as the Ask Noah Show, and if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, episode 99, we announced that after episode 100, so after tonight, the Ask Noah Show will be an independent production from Jupiter Broadcasting, and we're excited about that change. More information can be found at podcast.asknoahshow.com/99, and I go into it in incredible detail there. But one of the things that I've been thinking about, and that has been on my mind, and that I've decided to move forward with, is I think there are a lot of people in the community, both in the Ask Noah community and outside of the Ask Noah community, just in the Linux space, that have something to say. They have independent content that they could be creating and something to say to the world, and they don't have a platform to do it, and they don't have the equipment to do it. I have come into my broadcasting career, as it were, with kind of a multifaceted approach. See, I started doing podcasting and radio almost simultaneously, and so I have gotten deep insight into both the podcasting world and the radio world. And what I have learned over a couple of years of doing this is there are problems that podcasters in 2018 are trying to solve that the radio industry solved 40 years ago. And for one reason or another, either by ignorance or by choice, the podcasting community has just refused to embrace technologies that work, technologies that have a proven track record, technologies that have stability. And when I show some of these technologies to to people, sometimes it blows their mind. And they go, man, I did not know you could do that. And with that level of quality, and why is nobody in the podcast community talking about these technologies? Why is nobody using this stuff? And I don't have an answer to that. I don't know. So, on the other side of things, I have watched the radio industry just crawl. I mean, in certain areas, they just crawl because they just refuse to join 2018 and join the future. And so they continue to use, insanely outdated technologies that have no earthly purpose in a professional broadcast. And at the same time, they carry on. They just have no interest in trying to update. And so it's been a point of frustration to me, to be perfectly honest with you, that I can't get these two industries to kind of say, okay, these guys over here in the right corner are doing something better than these guys over here in the left corner. And these guys in the left corner have some ideas that the guys in the right corner are looking at. And so what I want to do is I want to bring those sides together, essentially. Some of the problems that I think that we run into when I watch new people getting into podcasting or broadcasting or creating their own content is, the first thing is their recording environment. They often have a terrible recording environment, if they have one at all. A lot of people they'll just hook up a USB mic and they'll sit down in their kitchen or next to their furnace or next to their laundry machine, and they just start talking into a $15 USB, Rock Band, not to point any fingers or say any names, but Michael to know, Rock Band mic, and they start podcasting that way, and you listen to the content, and the content is absolutely fantastic. What they're saying is amazing. How they're saying it is amazing. Their presentation is incredible. Their ability to communicate with other people and interact and engage their audience is great. What sucks is the audio quality. And then you start looking at what it really takes to do a professional broadcast properly. And I am very, very fortunate and very thankful to the folks at Leighton Broadcasting for kind of taking me under their wing and letting me use their multi-million-dollar broadcast facility, play around with their toys, and sending me to do all of this training and really educating me on the art of the broadcast at the highest level, audio production at the highest level, with absolutely no compromise, where millions and millions of dollars, quite literally, is the standard. And watching where the difference is, what I've learned is that it doesn't take millions of dollars to do a high-end broadcast. It does take thousands of dollars to do it right. And so as I've kind of walked through that, and as I've tried different methods and different methodologies to connect and different technologies and so on and so forth, we have landed on a couple of things that work very well for us, and we've also found some things that don't work very well. And what I have started to do is really play with the ability to send audio and encode audio and then send it over the internet. And I've been encoding audio and sending it locally around the studio for a long time, and we've used a number of different technologies, everything from hardware devices that encode audio and send them back to the studio to apps on a smartphone. We've used SIP and basically a thing that we created. We have used Source Connect. I've talked about Source Connect before. It's a fantastic service. If you don't have a budget at all, Source Connect is probably the way to go, because it's a web-based service. It utilizes WebRTC, but it's WebRTC that is optimized for broadcast. In the past couple of months, I have been able to, both with my connections at Leighton Broadcasting and working with people like Rivendell. That's a great example of a project and a group of developers that are doing amazing things, that are very passionate about high-end broadcast with no compromise. And being able to talk to these people and kind of pick their brain and learn where the pain points are and essentially what their technology is capable of. Talking that interview with Fred alone, out of all the special episodes we've done, I'd say that's probably my favorite one. Me personally, they're all good. They all have great information. But me personally, if I go back and listen to one, I just keep listening to Fred. I listen to his passion, and I listen to the way that he worked with the Telos Alliance to say, hey, you've got this piece of great hardware that does a lot of broadcasting, and I can write a piece of software to complement it. And we started to look into that, and I started to work with a developer, and we said, is there a way to get better audio than we're getting currently with Source Connect? Obviously, there's a way to do it over hardware. Obviously, there's a way to do that with ISDN lines. And can we do that in software? And eventually what we came to the conclusion of is what we had to do was essentially develop a physical hardware box that can take the audio and spit it in as IP over into our automation system, and at the same time, we needed a piece of software that anybody could connect to. And so we have been partnering with these various companies, and like I said, we've actually hired a developer and had him working on some of this stuff. And what we've come up with is pretty exciting. And I've used it enough times to know that this is the direction I want to go with this, and I want to open this up to other people that want to make independent content. We now have the ability to send near linear audio quality. If you don't understand what linear audio is, essentially uncompressed linear audio requires about 2.5 megs per channel. Now, we're not quite there yet to where we can have 2.5 megs anywhere in the guaranteed 2.5 megs consistently anywhere in the country, but we're getting very, very close. And so, utilizing some special compression techniques and stuff like that, we are able to reliably and consistently connect almost near linear, just about perfect audio from anywhere in the country back to our head studios in Grand Forks, North Dakota. And so what I have started to look at doing, and where we're going to go in 2019, where Ask Noah is going to go, and Altispeed Technologies as a company, is we want to extend this technology to you, the independent content creator. And so November, being podcast month, is the perfect time to talk about this. Ask Noah 100, looking at what we have learned in just over a year in 100 episodes, is absolutely incredible. If I could go back, oh my gosh, if I could go impart on my previous self on what I've learned in 100 episodes, I mean, we do things entirely differently today than we did on day one when we started the show. And part of that is these hard-learned lessons, some of which is that it costs a lot of money. So we have been approaching essentially radio studios around the country and said, hey, what we would like to do you have a spare production that's already set up with a high-quality broadcast, professional microphone, a high-quality broadcast-grade console that's already set up for mix minus with guests and all of those kinds of things? And would you be able to set up our transmission system that we can get audio back to our studio? Would you be willing to do that? And what we've found is either we're able to tie into existing hardware that the radio station has, or we're able to provide it for them. And so the idea would be something like this. In 2019, we want to offer a service to independent content creators, high-end independent content creators, because obviously, doing stuff at this level, there's some money involved, but high-end independent content creators, if you want, how would you feel about having podcasting as a service, podcast production as a service, where you pay a monthly fee and we'll take care of everything for you? We'll give you a place to go. You just show up. We'll have an engineer standing by that has everything already set up, already connected, near linear audio quality back to our studio, where we'll take care of the best audio processing money can purchase, the best streaming infrastructure money can purchase, and we'll take care of all the distribution for you. For an extra fee, we'll take care of all the social media, all of the promotion, all of that stuff. I think we're going to be able to do this, and I think that this is a service and a medium that is not currently very well populated. There's not a lot of people doing this, or at least I haven't found anybody doing this. And so we're going to reach out to more of these places and say, hey, we want to set this up. And of course, the Ask Noah Show has been doing shows from various different studios all the way around the country. We have a way to do it better than anybody else. And I think that's where money can be made, but also how you can really serve an audience, how you can really serve a customer, is when you can offer a service and or product that nobody else can offer. And I think we can do that because we're hackers, right? We're the kind of people that will take something and say, okay, this is good. This product that this company makes is good. We can make it better because we can tie it into the software component, and we can modify some software over here and do this over there, and we can build this system to where literally you can go anywhere in the country, and with your membership fee, you can participate in this independent content creation. So if that's something you're interested in, I'd love to hear from you live at AskNoahShow.com. This is something obviously that's going to take a little bit to get fully rolling. Again, we have tested the hardware, we have tested some of the software stuff that we've done, and all of that works great. Now it's a matter of getting all of that to participating radio stations. And obviously, if you're a high-end podcaster And I say high-end because, again, there's some money involved. If you're a high-end podcast, you say, I'd open my studio up to something like that. I'd be willing to let people, use that. Then obviously we would give you a part of the membership fee, something like that. And we would build a community of independent content creators. And I think that will be a real benefit to everybody. I think it'll be a benefit to people that have spent thousands of dollars on equipment that gets used once a week, because a lot of people that are doing podcasts are just doing it once a week. And I think it's a benefit for those that say, listen, I don't have $10,000, I don't have $20,000 to build out a studio, but hey, I got something to say. So if somebody would just loan me a microphone and show me where the on button is, and somebody takes care of all that technical stuff, man, I have something to say about that. 1-855-450-NOAH, that's 855-450-6624, the email, live@asknoahshow.com. Again, live at the Tamarack Tap Room in Woodbury, Minnesota. Hey, Simon, why don't you throw that headset on? I want to chat with you for a second. So Simon Quigley joins us. Simon is the release manager for Ubuntu. He is the, I don't know what your title is, the executive multitasking ninja for Altispeed, and executive producer of the Ask Noah Show. We call you all sorts of things. Most of them are not family friendly or appropriate, right? You made the drive all the way from Wisconsin.
Yeah, I made the drive from Green Bay, Wisconsin.
How was that for you?
Pretty good, actually. Nice drive.
So I understand. So you and Dalton Durst are both here. So Dalton lives about halfway between Green Bay, Wisconsin, and Minneapolis. Is that right?
Right.
So you guys sat and talked about Ubuntu, I assume, the whole way.
Pretty much.
Okay. What did we learn?
I don't know, really. I mean, it's interesting because the two projects that we're in different sub-projects, I guess, of Ubuntu.
Okay.
And so he does more of Ubuntu Touch stuff. Dalton Durst is a developer for the UBports project, and it's really interesting what we can learn from each other sometimes just by sharing a car ride. It's just discussions we've had within our community, how things work within our community, I guess. Different situations we've had to deal with, and in general, just as sub-projects within Ubuntu, it's interesting to discuss what's happening for the next releases. There's really not much to it, I guess.
Sure. No, that's fair. Yeah, there's not a lot. But here's the thing. In the canonical Ubuntu world, it has to be an interesting time, right? Because I don't know if y'all heard, Red Hat just got a real big check.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now that's where we're at today, is Red Hat just got a real big check. And this is at a time where Canonical undoubtedly has been for some time planning to go public, or at least trying to prep the company to get there.
Right. And it's interesting because Ubuntu as a project is independent from Canonical, but a lot of developers from Canonical work on Ubuntu. I think the Ubuntu desktop team is up to like 12 or 13 people working on it. And it's interesting because interacting with these teams within Canonical and within the Ubuntu community, you really get an idea that while we're in our separate projects, that we all share some common parts and we can all work together on a lot of different things.
You are the release manager of Ubuntu. Have you put any thought into, hey, here's what Red Hat is doing. How does that affect Fedora? Does it affect Fedora? Maybe it doesn't, right? I've asserted that Fedora has been an independent project since before IBM got involved, and I think that Red Hat has the integrity to let Fedora continue to be an independent product, even outside of what has transpired with IBM. But as a release manager for a distribution that's very closely tied to the hip to Canonical and Ubuntu proper, and looking at this and saying, well, a lot of people have speculated, maybe Microsoft steps in and says, well, IBM has Red Hat, maybe we'll have Canonical, we'll just buy ourselves some Linux. Do you look at that and say, I wouldn't mind working for Microsoft, or do you look at that and say, you know what, if that happens, I gotta jump ship?
It really depends on how things turn out. If Microsoft goes and buys it and then does massive performance in the project, I could see myself leaving. But if Microsoft keeps Canonical separate and keeps Canonical as the company it once was, sure, we're going to get a big hit, I guess, from people who have moved away from Microsoft Windows because of the decisions that Microsoft has made. They want to move to Linux for freedom. So some of those users, yes, they're going to go away. But I think long-term, as a contributor, I would just have to see how it plays out. It just really depends on the situation.
Sure. Do you have a backup plan in your mind, or have you thought about that?
The thought has crossed my mind. I'm not entirely sure what that would be yet, but
sure.
The thought has crossed my mind.
where do you see Ubuntu going? You know, like, what are your priorities? Like, because, you know, and this is where I'm at, too, right? And it's kind of, the two topics really tie together because, you know, Ask Noah Show and this cloud podcasting system that we are looking at creating or essentially rolling out, obviously we're planning that for 2019 in 2018 because we're kind of winding down the end of the year, and we're saying, where do we want to be at the end of 2019? Then what are the points in between here and there to get there? How do we get us there? That's where I'm looking at. So you have to be looking at that with Ubuntu, right? And you know, you've just made this change to Qt, you know, semi-recently anyway. And now you've got this news with Red Hat. And, you know, the Linux landscape is just changing a lot. Where do we want to be at the end of 2019?
At the end of 2019 is going to be interesting because 1810 was our first release with LXQt, and with a major release like this, of course, the whole release is a new feature, and that is far from an understatement. I think one of the only components that didn't change was the window manager, and you know, it's really interesting doing a major shift in technology like that. We did put out a blog post. You can find it at lubuntu.me, lubuntu.me/taking a new direction, and it's basically, we need to look at the project and our priorities and decide whether it can survive the next 5 years. And part of that is computers are evolving. There are still going to be some computers that sure don't run really, really well with something like KDE Plasma, but that market is slowly but surely diminishing. I guess one of the main things we've had to look at as a project is, do we want to continue supporting that old hardware, or do we want to continue just doing something else? And we had to make the decision to, after a good amount of time, move on and work with something else. We're just focusing on modernizing at this point. So we're getting feature parity with some of the major desktops like Mate and some part with KDE Plasma, but our goal is going to be to keep a light desktop by default and allow users to build off of that and do what they want with it and use it as sort of a utilitarian distro, I guess. The goal really is not set in mind, because you could call any one of these other distros the same thing. But I guess what we're looking at right now, I really don't think that a year ago I could have predicted where we are now. I know we did the I know we did the LXQ transition. I guess it really depends on where it goes.
Sure.
So I guess where I'm currently looking at this point is 2019. We're going to be trying to add new features and trying to make it a usable modern desktop. That's going to be the underlying goal here. But in general, I think having these overarching goals, sometimes we all pretty much want the same thing. We want a desktop that, you know, is usable, right? We want our users to have a good experience, and sometimes, you know, sometimes that's not easily met.
Sure. No, that makes perfect sense. We've got an email, and Scott, I'll get to your email here in just a second. I might actually bring Brandon on for that one. Before I let you go though, Simon, I'm just going to ask you. So, obviously, Ask Noah Independent after episode 100. Where do we go? You know, you're the executive producer of the show. I kind of rely on you as kind of the community plug to kind of stay plugged into the community, what the community wants, because my ear always isn't to the ground as I'm, you know, doing my day job. Where do you think we go?
At this point, I think we should continue doing what we're doing, and like you said, you know, at episode 1, you really couldn't have predicted where we are today. I guess you could give yourself a lot of lessons on episode 1 that you've learned through 100 episodes.
Right.
And I really think that through the next couple of years, as the Ask Noah show continues to evolve, I think we're only going to get better and better. Of course. Yeah. I guess to answer the question, I just think that, you know, we're going to build off of it, and I really don't have anything to say on that.
No, that makes sense. And you know, the thing is, I look to you for, you know, for that kind of that community angle, and a lot of times the way that surfaces is just in the fact that you'll say, hey, I heard that this story is big, or I hear this thing coming about, and can we talk about this, or you need to talk about this, and stuff like that, right? The long-term stuff, or the 10,000-foot view, oftentimes I'll kind of take over that myself. And what I have seen, where I think we really excel, Simon, is just in doing some of this live coverage. And that's what I think I really want to focus on and do more. Brandon Johnson,
How's it going?
How we doing?
Good.
Good to finally meet you in person, man.
Yeah, good to meet you too, man.
Thanks for taking the time to be here. So we got a question, and I feel like this is going to be right up your alley. Scott writes in. Scott writes to live@asknoahshow.com. You can, too, and add your voice to the conversation. He says, thanks for a great program. As a person who is hard of hearing, I always appreciate the audio levels are great, loud and clear. Great job. Thank you. My question today is, why are some USB drives not bootable? In other words, sometimes I format the drive, and no matter what I do, no matter what ISO writer I use, no matter how I write the ISO to Linux, some drives simply just won't work. Then some drives will hold data, but they just won't function as a live boot device. I'm puzzled. Any clue?
So that sounds like maybe the disk partition just not set to boot. Like, that's just what it sounds like to me.
So let me run something by. Here's what I've run into, and this is why I brought you on, because you're far more knowledgeable in some of this stuff than I am. But one of the things that I have noticed, and I question if this doesn't play into it a little bit, some USB drives, when you'll plug them in, will show up as a quote-unquote removable storage device. Mm-hmm. And other USB devices, and I can point to a specific brand, would be the SanDisks. They actually show up, even if they're a USB flash drive, they'll show up as a hard disk. Mm-hmm. And so it looks to the computer almost as if there is a SATA drive in. Now, it shows up over USB, but it looks like it's an actual hard drive. Does that play into it at all, where the computer goes to boot and you choose in the boot menu, boot off of an external USB stick, and it says, well, but that is a internal drive?
I haven't ran into that at all. So I couldn't really tell you.
Really? You've never had a USB drive that wouldn't boot?
No, I have a bunch of... I use almost exclusively Kensington and Kensington.
Do you really?
Yeah, and it's been flawless for that type of boot. For live CD, usually I just use DD. I don't use any other tool, and DD seems to just do the trick.
So I started using DD, and I eventually went over to what is the Etcher. Yes, thank you. Etcher.io. Guy nailed it here. And I actually, there's a funny backstory to that. I actually ignored our editor at the time, kept telling me to try Etcher, and I just kind of ignored him, because that's what I do sometimes, because I'm a jerk. And eventually realized that it's a really fantastic piece of software, runs right out of the box, and has... And where I have found sometimes where DD doesn't work, and I don't know if it's maybe I'm not specifying the right block size, or maybe I'm not specifying one at all sometimes. I'm not sure what that is, but I have had issues where USB drives won't boot.
Yeah, but probably a. I was thinking actually that if it's a USB 2 stick, it may not be bootable. It's been a long time since I've dealt with USB 2 thumb drives, so that's my next thought on that.
Yeah, and I have a wide collection of USB drives. I have had some Kensington. Is it Kensington? Kingston? Kingston?
Or whatever you pronounce it.
K diddly ding dong. And I've not found those to be problematic. For me, I've had the best luck with SanDisk. And one of the other things I've been able to do with SanDisk, and I'm going to pick your brain about this, good idea, bad idea, indifferent. I've actually taken the 3.0 USB SanDisks, and I've actually installed a Linux distro on them, and I use it as a portable hard drive. And one of the reasons I settled on SanDisk to do that is because the computer actually sees it as a hard drive, and so when I go into the BIOS, or now the UEFI, UEFI, so you ever notice we pronounce BIOS, but we don't pronounce UEFI for some reason?
Yeah.
When I go into the BIOS or the UEFI, I'm able to set it boot off of boot off the internal drives first. If you can't find something, then go ahead and go out to network wherever, and it will respect that even though it's a USB flash drive. Yep. So I've been able to do that. So yeah, and it's been great because I always know that I have a copy of Linux with me that I'm able to boot off. In fact, I've got it with me right now, and I'm able to boot off of it, and I can stick this drive into a computer, and I've got my own environment with some of my own software, access to my email client, my VPN is all configured, all of that good stuff.
I do the same thing.
Yeah, fantastic. So, are you at liberty to talk about what it is you do, maybe just in a general sense, even if you're not given any names?
Yeah, so I help lead container strategy for a VAR, a nationwide VAR. So,
okay. Well, excuse my ignorance. What is a nationwide VAR? What is that?
Value-added reseller.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, so I primarily focus on Red Hat.
Yeah, you wouldn't know much about that.
No, not at all. So that's basically what I do.
And that's a fairly new gig, right?
Yes.
That's cool. And you've been doing that for a couple of months?
3 months.
Okay. So do you find yourself working inside of multiple different environments? You're not in the same client every time?
Yep. Yeah. I'm in different city every week.
And then you're directing these people back.
Mm-hmm.
Ah, that's fantastic. So one of the other things I was going to pick your brain about tonight, we don't have to do this on the air per se, but since I got you on mic, I'll ask. I have a couple people lined up for an Ansible episode. You and I were chatting in the Mumble Room last week, I guess, about Ansible.
Yep.
Ended up sparking a huge discussion. Discussion in the Telegram group. I got private messages about it. I got email messages about it. I mean, the world just blew up, and everybody wants to know about Ansible. Mm-hmm. So I started playing with myself a little bit, and I was actually blown away with literally how, not that I should be surprised because you and Eric both told me this, but within 10 minutes you can have some of this stuff set up. Mm-hmm. So do you have some super secret contacts, or maybe even yourself, you want to subject yourself to something where we can do an entire episode on Ansible and maybe walk some people through that, maybe provide some video tutorials on how they can get started with that?
I might be able to do that.
That'd be fantastic. I think that'd be, because I think it's one of those things where everybody has, especially in the age of VPSs, where people start spinning up servers for everything. And actually, one of which we're going to get to here in just a moment. I think where we wind up is we don't have a good way to manage some of that stuff, and so oftentimes it's not that we don't care. It's just that if the server continues to work, then we don't really think about it. And oftentimes what that leads to is we just don't update the thing, right?
Exactly.
And maintenance gets left by the side, and then security becomes a bother. And then when something does go wrong, we look up and go, oh my gosh, man, I really haven't touched this thing in 2 years. Now what do I do? Mm-hmm. If I do update it, is anything going to break? And so having, being able to automate some of that maintenance and whatnot, and then being able to keep an eye on it, that's a huge value.
Now, automation is eating the world. I mean, it's just... I think it's the most important thing in IT, whether if you're talking automating servers or automating network devices, having consistent configuration and consistent updates across all your systems, I think, is extremely important.
Absolutely. One last thing before I let you go, and then I'll jump to Dalton here. But I was going to ask you your opinion on hybrid cloud provider. That seems to be the buzzword that is going on all over the place. And I won't ask you about Red Hat specifically, but what is a hybrid cloud provider? Good thing, bad thing, indifferent?
I think it's a great thing.
Okay.
So hybrid cloud basically just means I have on-prem hardware and I'm utilizing public cloud. So
right.
AWS, GCP, Azure, or you have nothing on-prem and you're using multiple cloud providers. That's basically all hybrid cloud is.
And so the advantage is, and I guess I wasn't familiar with the second definition, I was familiar with the first, is if you're, in your example, you're able to utilize the advantages of quote-unquote cloud infrastructure, I'm just going to call it someone else's computer, while at the same time maintaining your own reliability because you do have an on-premise appliance of sorts.
And like kind of the nirvana there is the ability to move workloads seamlessly between on-prem and public cloud. I mean, that's really the goal, and that's what a lot of projects like Kubernetes, that's kind of the goal. Be able to have clusters of Kubernetes on-prem and off-prem, and just be able to move workloads without having to change a line of code. Like
absolutely,
all the developers need to do, and all the developers should ever need to care about is writing code, and that's what technologies like OpenShift or Kubernetes, even generic Kubernetes enable.
Absolutely. No, that's fantastic. And I would like to, I want to dig more into that as time goes on, is particularly, with Red Hat and obviously their focus on hybrid cloud and stuff. I think all of that is important. It does bother me that it's being thrown around as like a buzzword. I hate it anytime, because what happens is people that have no idea what Linux is or really what a computer is other than that big boxy thing that sits on my desk because they work for some major news organization or whatever, they latch on to these words that they hear and they go, oh, that sounds technical and I'll sound like I know what I'm talking about, and then they start throwing it around, and that kind of drives me nuts. And when I had heard about the quote unquote hybrid cloud, and when the merger broke, obviously I did some digging then, and I went, hey, that sounds like that's a ASNO approved thing, that you would have the advantages of the cloud and yet you'd have an on-site device like thing. And so then I was kind of all in on it. And I thought, well, if Red Hat gives it its stamp of approval and they're going to become the #1 hybrid cloud provider in the world, and that's what it's capable of, yeah, I'm all bored with that. Again, open phones 1-855-450-NO. That's 855-450-6624, or in our interactive mumble room. By the way, as part of our dependence, a couple of things. First is we have a new interactive chat room, and you can find it at pound Ask Noah Show in Freenode. And I have gone back and forth. There is a raging debate, and so you too can add your voice to the conversation of if it's pound or if it's hashtag or if it's Slack or Shift 3. Oh, Simon's very upset. I guess he'll have to jump in here and add his voice to the conversation. But right now, Simon. Right now, I'm going to talk to Dalton about the Ubi ports. And now he's throwing stuff again. There they go. Now he's punching Brandon. And it's getting to be a mess. Dalton, you're the only civilized human being here. How are you?
Why, thank you. Hey, Noah. Great to be here.
Hey, thanks for taking the time to be here. So you drove half as far as he did.
Yeah, I drove him.
And then, did you?
Mm-hmm.
Did you go pick him up, or he came to you?
He came to me. We left his
that was good planning.
Great car behind.
Are you making fun of his vehicle?
I am.
Rightfully so.
You know, when I was 16 years old, you know what I drove?
No.
I drove a 1994 Ford Explorer. Whatever car he has, I promise you mine was worse.
I don't know about that.
I'm willing to challenge. Here's the thing. So after I bought this vehicle, first thing I did is I decided I was going to make it the ultimate nerdmobile. So I put a laptop. It was an IBM ThinkPad 701C. Now this is before your time. How old are you? 21? 22?
Yeah, 20.
Okay, all right. So you would not remember this, but for those of you that are nostalgic a little bit, IBM 701C. Are you old enough to remember this? The butterfly, the ThinkPad that had the butterfly keyboard. Brandon shaking his head. It was the coolest thing ever. Why nobody has done this since then, I'll never know. But I had an IBM ThinkPad 701C and a docking station mounted into it, and I put directional antennas on top so I could do fox hunting for ham radio. It was fantastic. Looked ridiculous, but it was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. My dad was an old ham, or grandpa, sorry. So I completely get the whole antennas everywhere thing. It looks awesome.
Yeah, no, I thought it looked great. I was real happy about it. So tell me about what's new with Ubi ports. It's one of those things. I mean, I'm going to level with you. I would never say this to you unless we were in person, and I've gotten a chance to kind of know you a little bit, so I feel more comfortable telling you this. But like, I really question you people who try to go out there and compete in the Android iOS world. I mean, I think you're almost crazy. Trying to compete in that, because you've got this world is so heavily dominated, and I think it's really cool because I absolutely think there's a market out there of people that say, hey, listen, I want a third alternative. Heck, I'm one of those people to a certain degree because I don't really like iOS or Android. But I mean, does this have a shot, especially in the age of apps where everything has to have an app and your platform is really defined by who publishes an app to you?
Yeah, we always get that kind of talk when we're anywhere.
Sure.
So I completely get that idea. That's what everyone has been saying from the beginning of Ubuntu Touch, right? I mean, what we can say to that is we don't need to beat either Android or iOS completely. We need to have our user base who is happy with our product, and as long as we are growing that, which we are, it doesn't need to be at the level of Android or iOS, even though we would love it to be.
Wow.
We're very humble in that way, that we understand that there are people who need this app on iOS or this app on Android, and that's why we are working to bring in Anbox, which is the Android compatibility layer for Android apps.
Right.
You can install that now on Ubuntu Touch in beta, or pre-alpha. And we have lots of projects like that are going on. Our new browser, web apps have always been a big part of Ubuntu Touch, so everyone's got a website, right? and a mobile website at that. So
Absolutely.
those also work, and they look all right on the platform. So
That's awesome.
we've got a lot of things going on, and we are really happy to.
I got to tell you, man, I really like that answer. So it's not about can we get huge market dominance. It's can we serve the people that want to use our product well? Can we deliver on their expectations?
Absolutely.
And so if their expectations are, I want a privacy-first operating system that I can trust, and I can put my data on there, and I can trust that that data is secure and that data is private, and I can also trust that the platform is open, so I feel free to make changes. I feel free to customize or fork if it ever comes to that.
Mm-hmm.
You know that that's the kind of base you're building, and then you're delivering to that user base.
Yes, absolutely. And so people can keep naysaying that we're out to make a product that makes ourselves and our customers happy.
JJ4884 in the chat room asks, are snap packages allowed?
They are not currently installable on Ubuntu Touch. Part of the problem is that we have older kernels because of Android, so we're running 3.4 on the Nexus 5.
Mm-hmm.
And we also don't have systemd, so it's a bit of a weird layer stuff. It's not yet. We're looking into it, but at the moment that's not fitting into our model. And we also have the problem of confinement and our apps being mobile apps. Desktop apps don't exactly look great on a 5-inch screen. So some of the snap packages might not be the most fun to use.
You know, that's interesting, and I've talked about this before. A good desktop operating system does not make a good phone operating system, and a good phone operating system sucks when you get it on a 30-inch display, a 30-inch 4K display, right? So the idea of snap packages on Ubi ports makes a lot of sense on the surface. Hey, somebody's already doing all the work to package all this stuff up. Let's just go ahead and run it on a phone. And then, hey, you know what? We're running it on a laptop, or running it on a tablet, or running it on a phone, and all the applications that I have come to love and accept and appreciate and use on my laptop will just run on this 5-inch phone. And then you're looking at it and you say, well, yeah, but the experience would suck if I tried to run LibreOffice Writer on a 5-inch phone.
Yep, and people do that, and that is indeed the case. Seeing people have LibreOffice Writer on that 5-inch screen, and the file menu is taking up 3 bars because of scaling, it's just
right.
It's a bit of a mess. It would be much better to have that native app that works on the platform, looks great, and converges. So we do have the feature where you can plug into an external display, and everything scales to that display. Unity 8 was created with that in mind, where the same things that you can do on the phone you can do once you're off the phone.
So you can have essentially 2 apps installed. Can you give me a good example of one?
You could do that, but so one of the prime examples of that would be our email app Deco.
Okay.
So when you're on the phone, it's a one-page app, or one pane. You have all of your emails in the list, and you click one, and it slides over, and you have your email then. Once you get it on a tablet, you have the 2-pane display where you have all of your emails on the left, and then the actual preview is on the right. And that's how you'd scale that. And once you're on a desktop, that becomes just a window instead of a full-page app.
Mm-hmm. Apologies, I guess it's UB ports, not Ubi ports.
Someone correct you in the...
Somebody's correcting me. Yeah, I don't know
boy.
Tissimisk 2.
Oh, that guy's a jerk.
Yeah, I don't like that guy either. Eric, the IT guy, welcome to the conversation, man. How are you?
Hey, how's it going? I'm jealous I couldn't be there. It was, a quick 6.5-hour drive that I couldn't make today. But I actually...
Yeah, well, we're going to have to talk about your priorities, but, we can deal with that another time.
You can beat me at Southeast Linux Fest. So Dalton, I wanted to ask a quick question. So for those of us that have been stuck on iOS for years and didn't know better until recently, what would you recommend for, say, a budget phone and then more of a flagship phone for giving Ubi ports a try?
Totally. So it does depend a bit on where you are in the world. In America, it's really easy to get the Nexus 5, for instance, on Swappa or eBay. So I'd totally recommend going for a Nexus 5 if you're in the US. You can also find the Nexus 4, Nexus 7 if you want a tablet, 2013, not the 2012. The faster phone would be the OnePlus One, and there's also the Fairphone 2 if you're in Europe or outside of America. And that's available new.
fun fact: don't try and put UB ports on a Nexus 5X, because apparently there's a huge difference. Because that's kind of my test phone, and UB ports won't install on it.
Yeah. Funny story, I actually got into Ubuntu Touch in August of 2016 because I wanted to port Ubuntu Touch to the Nexus 5X. And it's been 2 years now, and that still hasn't happened, but I'm still trying.
Any other thoughts or questions, Eric?
Well, except for after the show's over, I think I'm going to go on eBay and list my 5X and see if I can't get my hands on a 5.
Yeah, you bet. You bet. Thanks for jumping in there. And, of course, anybody else in the mumble room, you're welcome to do so as well. 855-450-NOAH. That's 855-450-6624. The email, live@asknoahshow.com. So, something else I have to bring up, because this is back early October. You wrote into the program.
Yeah.
And you said you heard us talking about multipass, and you said you wanted to offer a suggestion. Now, I have been one of the biggest proponents of things like the multipass, the hardware password-based manager, and what gang device are you pulling out of your pocket here? Okay, so tell me what this is. So this looks like almost like a flash drive with buttons on it. Kind of looks like the YubiKey with buttons on it.
Hey, yeah, so it's the this is the only key from Crypto.
Okay.
It's a hardware password manager and two-factor authentication device.
Okay.
So it does FIDO U2F, it does TOTP-ish. You need an agent on the computer to do that, to give it the time.
Okay. Does it work? Does that agent work in Linux?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Mac, Windows, and Linux apps for it, and an Android app that is in development, so it's nice.
So can you use this to authenticate into an SSH server?
I haven't tried that yet. They do say that they're working on that SSH key smart card type scheme, but I'm not sure that they have it there yet. So what happens is when you plug it in, and you can plug it.
All right, yeah,
if
sure,
you aren't
we'll do
afraid
that.
of blowing up your laptop or anything.
Wait, it blows up my laptop?
No. So once it
Jesus.
boots up,
Is it supposed to be smoking like that?
makes tons of lights, and at this point, it's waiting for me to enter a PIN.
Okay.
So right when it's plugged in, it waits for a PIN.
Okay. I'll cover.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, we can't do it. Okay. All right.
And
But you'd enter the PIN, and then what would happen?
At that point, it's open for 12 slots of passwords or second-factor
12
authentication.
slots?
Yep. So you can have any of your passwords stored for any of your accounts. It'll also do username, tab, password, enter. If you wanted to do that, it basically just types out your passwords for it.
No
for
kidding.
You. Yeah.
So it emulates a USB keyboard.
It does.
So the advantage to that, folks, if you're not listening, if you're not thinking about it, if you think about how DigitalOcean, for example, does their console access, right? It's doing a little VNC magic and then putting that into like this little JavaScript window deal. And obviously your system isn't really able to talk to that. I mean, obviously a keyboard input can go, but a password manager can't recognize that it's prompting for a password because it's this VNC session inside of this Java session thing. So what Dalton is describing is the ability he can push a button and authenticate into literally anything that you could type your password into.
Yep.
But of course more secure.
And it has two different profiles, so you can have two different pins set to enter into a different profile, say if you want to work in a home. And it also has a self-destruct pin, which I will not enter at this point. I like using my laptop, so.
Does it give any indication that you've entered a self-destruct pin?
It does not. All that will
That's
happen
really
is
cool.
it stops functioning. Or
Are
goes
you
back to
familiar?
setup.
Are you familiar with these digital strip searches? Have you heard about this?
I have not.
So in Sweden, we talked about this a little bit last on episode 98, I think, of Ask Noah Show, which is a great episode, by the way. It's the Stump the Linux Chump episode. So we invited our friends from Destination Linux to come over and answer some questions. Hilarious episode because we just had fun with the thing. But one of the things that came up was this digital strip search, and the digital strip search is essentially countries in Europe, in Eastern Europe, are starting to require people to decrypt their device before they're able to be admitted into the country. And if you don't, they either hit you with a very large, like $5,000 or $10,000 fine, or they actually confiscate your device. So the ability to say, "Oh, sure, let me decrypt that for you," beep 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 beep. I don't know what happened. It went up in flames and started smoking. I'm not sure why that happened. And then doesn't say, self-destructing or some stupid thing.
Right. Yep.
So would this work on my laptop as, I mean, obviously you're not going to enter PIN, but if you did, would it work on my laptop, or would I have to install an agent?
For the typing features, it works straight out of the box. If you want to use
But you can only store 12 of those.
Right. For U2F and that kind of thing, it might need some rules set. It doesn't on Windows or Mac OS or Chrome OS I've tested. But on Linux, it might need some rules set to actually allow it to access the device for U2F. And in Firefox, you do need to enable that in About Config.
What's your daily driver? Like, what are you running?
For...
Operating system.
Oh, I'm running Pop OS.
Okay.
Which, yeah, I saw that around the table.
You what?
I saw that around the table.
Well, I mean, we can do. I mean, really, I wasn't where I was going with it, but I mean, we can talk about that. I mean, why Pop OS? Of all of the Ubuntu derivatives that are out there, and being a developer, somebody who can quite literally open the code up and say, "I don't like this thing, let me fix it." Pop OS is. I mean, is it not just Ubuntu with a theme on it?
It is mostly, but they have one little thing that just annoys me with all the other Ubuntus, where they use Grub for their bootloader. So what Grub does is it, after your UEFI boots, it boots into Grub, which takes, several seconds, and then from there it loads Linux. Now instead, Pop OS uses EFI stub, which puts a Linux kernel directly into an EFI binary, which is run by your firmware. So it boots quick. I don't know if the audience actually heard me snap there, but...
I think they probably did, but I guess my question to you is, like, so this laptop, when I installed KDE, Chris gave me a challenge. He said, I think you're going to really like KDE. I said, no, I won't. He says, yes, you do. He got lucky because that day GNOME crashed on me. I lost all of my show prep that day, and I was furious, and I literally grabbed the USB drive out of his hand, shoved it in my laptop while he sat in the corner smirking and wiped my computer clean of GNOME and installed KDE. Point of the story is that it has been so reliable and so stable that I have literally not just not had to reinstall, but I had not even rebooted the thing in 6 months until finally my battery died and it came back up, and I'd actually forgotten my encryption password, got locked out of my laptop, and had to reinstall because I couldn't decrypt my laptop. Felt like a total idiot. That also, by the way, happened on a Tuesday right before Ask No One, so I lost all my show prep a second time. But point of the story being that I don't restart my laptop, like, ever. Maybe twice a year, and that's being generous. So you're using an entire operating system just because during the boot up process, which I would imagine, show of hands, how many people restart their laptops? Really? Y'all don't trust Linux
quite
enough.
often.
Why? Why does everybody restart their laptop?
I do it because of full disk encryption.
Go ahead in the mumble room.
Yeah.
Well, one of the issues I have is I'm running Fedora on a Dell XPS 12, so it's their Ultrabook, it's their competition to the Microsoft Surface. There is a bug with it that suspend doesn't work properly, and Brandon and I beat our heads into a table trying to get it fixed. But it's just easier for me to shut my laptop down.
Sure, but so on the table here, why do you restart your laptop? Because you update your kernel? Okay, well, updates. Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
That too.
Yeah, and I run the updates, but obviously the kernel isn't taking effect until I've restarted. But I mean, to me that seems, I just could never see myself picking an operating system based on that alone. Anything else that it does for you that you're like, that's awesome, or it's just, man, when I have to restart my computer, I just like the fact that it boots 3 seconds faster.
So originally it was because I loved Ubuntu GNOME, the original Ubuntu GNOME, and when they did switch to building their own, I didn't quite like the session they made, and I do like the tweaks that System 76 made.
Sure.
So is
it better now, the stock version of Ubuntu?
I still don't particularly like it.
Really?
But that's just one drop in
Hey,
the
you know
ocean.
what? If System 76 adds a good theme, and you happen to like that theme, that's who am I to judge? I mean, yeah, if that works, it works, and if it makes the computer boot even faster, even better. Where I really think that System 76 is going to gain some traction with pop_OS is they are, I think where they're going to reach a point because they care so much about the community, and because they're so in tune with their users, they will make the operating system that people are willing to leave on the computer. Because I think most of the places that sell Linux-specific laptops pretty much acknowledge that for the most part, people are going to take that computer, even if it comes pre-installed with Linux, and they're going to wipe it clean and put what they want on it. And I think Dell and System 76 are the only two companies that are actually going to get to a point where people will just leave the stock operating system installed. Again, you too can join us in our interactive chat room, pound Ask Noah Show on Freenode. Jason P. asks, can it be used on Mac OS and Linux machines moving between two machines? So the security key, are you able to unplug this from my Linux box, plug it into a Mac, and use it there?
Yes, so because it works as a USB keyboard, it'll work on any of those. It'll work on BSDs if you want to. You just won't be able to write new passwords to it. And as long as you have the app installed, as soon as the device is unlocked, it is ready to accept new passwords. But it will not show you what they are in the interface.
That's very cool. That's a very clever device. And how much does that thing cost?
$46.
Okay, so it's on par with the YubiKeys. But you said no ability to authenticate with SSH.
Correct.
That you're aware of anyway. Yeah, and obviously you could use the one-time password thing. You can make like a 256-character password or something, and then you'd hit the button and then it would authenticate.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways it'd be less secure, though.
When I was looking for it, I was looking for something specifically that was open source and open hardware, but wasn't... and about the same price as the YubiKey, because I really wanted a YubiKey, but I really didn't want the closed source part of it. You
know, here's the interesting thing, Dalton. A lot of the competitors that try to do an open source or alternative to the YubiKey, quite frankly, they suck at it. So, like the Nitro Key, it's a great idea in theory. The build quality is horrendous. Like, I'd be afraid of dropping the thing. I'd be afraid it smashes. Whereas my YubiKey, I take it around with me everywhere. I stepped on the thing. I use it as a doorstop, quite literally. Wedge it underneath the door, and it works. Yeah, Brandon's smashing his phone to show how durable that is. And he's hitting his ThinkPad. Now he's hitting Dalton's head. And what you find is that all of these competitors are really not doing. We're on a delay. Are really not doing a very good job. And this is it the only key? Is that what it's called?
Yes.
It's very well built, and not only is the device itself very well built, but then they've got this little protective rubber jacket that's going over it to make sure that you understand it's ready for prime time. You carry this thing in your pocket. You don't even have it in a case or in a computer bag. You're just carrying it in your front pocket.
Yep, all the time. It stays on my keys. And here's it out of the case. I know
that's just very, very well built.
Audience, but
yeah, no, but I can tell them, because they trust me, because it's my show, that it's very well built. And you can feel that, and so that's absolutely fantastic. Well, thanks for sharing that, Dalton. I really appreciate it, and thanks for writing into live@asknoahshow.com. Sorry, we're just getting to that email now. I'm going to get better about that. That's my goal between episode 100 and 200, to do more emails. Simon is throwing gang symbols at me. What are you saying? Here, you hand Simon the microphone. We just got a couple minutes left in the hour. I don't speak sign language. What are you trying to say?
I don't know. What am I trying to say?
I don't know. You look like you're doing gang symbols. Hey guys, couple of cool things. First of all, I want to say a huge thank you to the Jupiter Broadcasting audience. Those of you that have been with us since episode 1, and those of you that have been with me personally since the Linux Action Show days back in, I think episode was it 300 I took over shortly before there. I just want to say a huge thank you, and for all of your support throughout the years, and we hope that you'll stick with us. Like I said, not a lot is really going to change. Show is going to be at the same time. Phone number is going to stay the same. Only difference is, obviously, won't be on jblive.tv. It's only going to be on asknoahshow.com. But, like I've told you, that is where you should be going, because the audio quality is fantastic there. And so we'd ask you to make sure to check out the show, continue to listen to the show live. Also, make sure that you subscribe to the Ask Noah specific feed. Go to podcast.asknoahshow and make sure to subscribe in your favorite podcast catcher, because this will be the last episode that you're going to get in the All Shows feed, and that goes for the All Shows video feed as well as the All Shows audio feed. You'll continue to get the Ask Noah Show in the Ask Noah Show video feed, and you'll continue to get the Ask Noah Show in the on the audio feed. Also, keep in mind that on YouTube you're going to have to go to our Ask Noah Show channel. That's where the episodes will get published. Now, I imagine that most people, when they're going to listen to the show on YouTube, they probably just type in Ask Noah Show and look at the latest episode. So probably won't affect you so much, but just make sure to keep that in mind. We're also launching a new chat service. We looked at how can we integrate IRC into 2018. What is the most modern way that we can integrate chat into 2018? And so we're going to roll it out in a 2-tier approach. The first is going to be a public service, so there'll just be a button on the chat or on the website starting next week that you'll go to, and it'll be a web-based IRC chat client. We invite you to check that out. We think it's going to be a really fantastic way for you to interact with us, really hassle-free, very modern, up-to-date, those kinds of things. Tier 2 is going to be really neat. For those of you that are loyal Ask Noah listeners, the people that we see inside of the Telegram group, inside of the IRC, that are writing in, emailing to the show, we're going to give you a sign-up option, and we're going to put a second server up, essentially, that you'll be able to authenticate into. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at Ask Noah Show. Again, a huge thanks to Chris Fisher, Angela Fisher, the entire folks at Linux Academy for supporting us the entire time. We're happy to be independent. We'll see you next week, 6 p.m. Central, back to our Tuesday schedule. Thanks, everybody.